Casey's sound films reached new heights.
Oh my, he is making eyes up to me. He is a phone haste to me. He is almost breaking my heart. I am Satan, mercy let his conscience guide him. He wants to marry me and be my honeybee. Every minute he gets bolder. Now he's leaning on my shoulder. He's kissing me. Oh my, he is making
A joke on film was a threat on radio.
This is station STAR, the voice of Hollywood.
But when radio became popular, the attendance in the theaters dropped off to practically nothing. And the big companies were very worried, terribly worried.
The big companies like Paramount tried to recapture audiences with novelty. They tried Technicolor, Gloria Swanson in Stage Struck. They tried bigger screens, Magnascope. They tried more expensive pictures. They advertised them all on radio. The one thing they did not try was sound. The engineers urged them to do so, but there were no takers. All the studios rejected the idea. All but one, Warner's. Warner Brothers had never been in the same league as the big studios. The four brothers had been in the business since the Nickelodeon days. They were enjoying a new prosperity after a very lean period. Sam Warner was in charge of production with his young brother, Jack.
Jack Warner, I remember very well, but I used to bring him to the studio every day, and it's a gospel fact that he never got off at the front door of the studio. I let him around the back, let him off around the back, because the sheriff was possibly waiting at the front door to either attach the studio or take the car.
Warners were now determined to break the monopoly of the big companies to get their pictures more widely distributed. Sam Warner was fascinated by radio. He employed Western Electric to install and operate a radio station so Warners could advertise on the air. At last, sound engineers had a foothold in a Hollywood studio. They sold Sam Warner the idea of synchronized sound. He sold it to his brothers. Not talking pictures, which showmen distrusted, but music. They recorded sound on disc. Unlike sound on film, disc recording was a tried and trusted process.
Come on, boy.
Warner's joined with Western Electric to form the Vitaphone Corporation and opened a studio in New York to be near the Broadway stars.
This immediately revolutionized the whole ambience of the Warner Brothers studios. They first started with a series of little shorts, Vitaphone shorts.
All right, everybody quiet, please. After the bell. All the time in the tropical climb, away to do that songy dance. I fell in love with a tropical dove while doing that fuzzy dance. All the poor little kid, she never did have a bit of loving before. So I made up my mind that I wasn't fine, the only girl that I adore.
Warner's poured money into a major silent film, Don Juan. They recorded the New York Philharmonic to provide the sound, and in August 1926 held a gala premiere for Vitaphone. Warner's had used their new system to film Will Hayes. On film, he opened the program.
To the Warner Brothers, to whom is due credit for this, the beginning of a new era in music and motion pictures, I offer my felicitations and my sincerest appreciation.
After Will Hayes, Vitaphone shorts with the top theatrical and musical talent of the day. The New York Philharmonic in Tannhäuser. And from the Metropolitan Opera, Martinelli and Pagliacci. But the main event of the evening was the feature film made in the Vitaphone process, Don Juan. Mary Astor played opposite John Barrymore. This is how Warner saw the future. The sound of a symphony orchestra available everywhere. Even the smallest theater in the land could match the picture palaces in the big cities. But for the Broadway audience, accustomed to large orchestras with their movies, a mere recording was an anticlimax.
I thought sort of an innovation, interesting, very nice. Pretty soon we'll get back to silence, you know. And sort of a gadget, something to play with. Never took it seriously.
I remember Joseph Skink, who was an astute motion picture man, was very skeptical of it and said it will never last. I think Jack Warner thought it would never last, hoping it would because they were so in it that they stood to make fortunes if it did last.
Thanks, boys.
At the premiere, the Vitaphone shorts had been the big success. Warner stepped up production.
We were all impressed into duty. We would work, finish one short, go right into another, right into another. They were trying to live that year out and make as much money as they could and let people drop if they had to. You know, it didn't matter to them much.
The other studios were heavily committed to big silent productions. They were hostile to innovation. The leading producers agreed that for 1 year, none would adopt sound unless all did. We have too big an investment in silent pictures. The effect on the overseas market would be disastrous. Studios would have to be entirely rebuilt. Let them develop it if they can, then we'll see about it. But William Fox did not align himself with his colleagues. Instead, he signed a deal with Theodore Case to go for sound. Sound on film, Movietone.
My first experience of making a sound picture was with Fox. They had the Fox News Weekly, and the News Weekly had a sound series. They equipped their theaters with sound, and we made a sound news weekly every week, in which politicians and others would say a few words.
Benito Mussolini, filmed by Movietone in Italy in May 1927.
I am very glad to be able to express my friendly feelings towards the American nation. Friendship with which Italy looks at the millions of citizens